It was 2 a.m. when 3 notifications hit my phone simultaneously, all from aerospace tracking communities, all pointing at the same thing. A Falcon 9 had just lifted off from Cape Canaveral, but nobody in the public sphere knew what was inside that fairing. Nobody. I pulled up the live feed. What I saw made my blood run cold. This wasn't going to be a normal launch. The rocket climbed perfectly, absolutely perfect, beautiful, almost serene against the black Florida sky, that iconic white contrail threading upward like a needle stitching the atmosphere to the cosmos. I watched it on the live feed, and for a moment, just a single moment, everything felt reassuringly normal. Like I was watching one of 100 routine SpaceX launches. Like I was about to witness something utterly boring and purely commercial. I should have known better. I should have suspected something was wrong. But then I noticed something. The telemetry data that normally scrolls across the screen during every Falcon 9 launch, partially blacked out. The orbital insertion parameters that SpaceX almost always shares with the public, gone, completely gone. And that wasn't a glitch, that was deliberate. Someone made a conscious choice about what the public was allowed to see and what they weren't. My stomach dropped. In that moment, I knew exactly what that meant. The fairing separation. That's when the payload comes into view. Every SpaceX launch shows it, the halves falling away, the payload exposed. But not this time, the feed cut. Black screen, ambient music. A cheerful SpaceX graphic, mission proceeding nominally, but my mouth was dry, my hands shaking, because I knew what a manufactured broadcast interruption looked like. I've been covering space launches and aerospace developments for years, hundreds of rockets. I know the choreography of government secrecy, the protocols, the rhythms, the calculated ways they obscure what matters. I know what a classified National Reconnaissance Office payload looks like on a broadcast, the timing, the careful distance they maintain. But this was different, improvised, rushed, raw. Someone made a late decision about what the public couldn't see, and you could feel it in every frame. That improvisation, that visible panic beneath the surface, terrified me far more than the secrecy itself. Because secrecy, I understand. But this was something else entirely. I started digging, really digging. When something doesn't sit right, you pull the records. The FAA filing listed one orbital zone. Amateur astronomers tracking from the ground found another. Not close, significantly different. These weren't conspiracy theorists, they had telescopes, real data, real observations. The consensus was unmistakable. This payload wasn't going where the paperwork claimed, and nobody was talking about why. I reached out to 3 sources deep in aerospace contracts. One, a veteran engineer on multiple government projects, sent back a single sentence. I would strongly suggest you not pursue this one. No explanation, no elaboration, just silence. And I want to be honest, that response scared me more than anything else, because this person had never told me to back off. Not once. In years. Institutional silence became the loudest answer. I turned to Elon's social media. He tweets about everything, his companies, critics, dinner, civilization itself. But on this launch, complete silence. His account was active, he posted other things, but on this mission, nothing. I watched his feed for 48 hours. That silence was louder than anything he could say, because silence isn't his language. Silence from him was a scream. Here's where things got genuinely fascinating and genuinely disturbing. Researchers started cross-referencing that independent tracking data with orbital mechanics, building a precise picture of where this payload likely ended up. And the orbital characteristics being observed, I want to be careful here because we're working with incomplete data, suggested an extremely high, highly inclined orbit. The kind of orbit that gives you persistent coverage over specific geographic regions. The kind you choose very deliberately, very intentionally. And I felt something shift inside me, a cold recognition, when I understood the implications. Because there are really only a handful of reasons you position something in that specific orbital geometry. Surveillance with unprecedented persistence over contested regions. Communications relay for systems that need to operate below conventional radar, or something newer. Something we don't have a clean category for yet, which honestly might be the most unsettling possibility of all. The unknown unknowns, the things we haven't even learned to ask about. What strikes me hardest is the paradox. SpaceX built the most capable launch system in human history. They resupply the station. They launch astronauts. They stream launches. They've cultivated goodwill through transparency, making space feel shared and accessible. And somewhere along the way, that same infrastructure became available for missions the public isn't meant to know about. Not the existence, not the destination, not the purpose. Nothing. I'm not naive about how this works. I know private aerospace companies have always done government work. Classified payloads have always existed, but there's something qualitatively different happening right now, something that keeps me awake at night. The sheer volume of SpaceX launches means that truly secret payloads can hide inside the rhythm of routine operations in a way that was never possible before. When you're launching dozens of rockets a year, dozens, one quiet mission disappears into the noise. The mundane becomes the perfect cover for the extraordinary, and nobody's talking about it. And I keep coming back to Elon's silence, because whatever you think of him, you cannot argue that silence is his default. It isn't. He performs openness. He built entire brands around transparency. So when someone who performs openness as a core trait goes completely quiet, that tells you the walls around that something are extraordinarily high. High enough that even he won't approach them publicly. I want to be transparent. I cannot tell you what was in that fairing. I cannot confirm the destination orbit or mission objective. What I can tell you is that the documented irregularities are real. The trajectory discrepancy is real. The source who told me to walk away is real. And the pattern of silence from people who are never silent, that's the loudest answer of all. What I can also tell you is this: it isn't an isolated incident, not even close. Researchers tracking SpaceX's manifest over the past 18 months, combing through launch records, cross-referencing flight data, have identified at least 4 other launches with strikingly similar characteristics. Minimal pre-launch disclosure, broadcast anomalies that cut through the signal, post-launch silence, heavy and deliberate, orbital parameters that don't align with stated profiles, 4 others, and then another. This is becoming a pattern, a clear, unmistakable pattern. Because patterns, you see, are the language that truth eventually speaks in, if you're patient enough to listen, if you're willing to hear what the silence is actually saying. I stayed up until sunrise that night. Somewhere several hundred miles above, something orbited, built by human hands, launched from American soil, wrapped in institutional silence. I felt genuinely small, not the beautiful way space humbles you. The other way. The way where you realize how much of the world operates in darkness, in the spaces between what we're told and what's actually happening. I'll keep pulling on this thread. I'll keep watching the tracking forums, tending my sources carefully. Keep looking for the shape of something buried in the silence, because somebody knows what was on that rocket. Somebody knows exactly what's orbiting above us right now, watching. And eventually, somebody always talks. That's how truth works. It doesn't stay buried forever. It leaks. It whispers. It finds the cracks in the facade and seeps through, unstoppable. If you saw something that night, something unusual, something that didn't make sense, I need to hear it. If you have information, observations, anything at all, you know where to find me. I'm not walking away from this. I'm not forgetting because someone told me to, or because it's inconvenient, or because it's dangerous. This story matters, and I'm going to keep pursuing it until the pieces fit. What was the payload? Where is it now? Who decided the public didn't need to know? These aren't academic questions. They're about transparency, power, and the institutions we're supposed to trust. When private companies and government agencies work together in darkness, when they hide from the people who funded them, who built them, who live under them, there's a cost. That cost is trust. That cost is accountability. This is one launch, one night, one rocket, but it's a symptom of something larger. A world where the most powerful technologies operate in shadows, where transparency is a marketing tool, not a principle, where those responsible for space can simply decide you don't have the right to know. Maybe that's how power has always worked, but knowing it and seeing it clearly are different things. Now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it, and neither can you.